Good day, human Ladiocytes. This is Latios Azurill, and today I am going to be discussing a popular trend in the Poké community, the Nuzlocke Variants. Now, I am pretty sure that many of you who are familiar with my channel do know what the Nuzlocke Challenge is, and by association what Nuzlocke Variants are. But for the few of you who might not, you can pay attention to this explanation, and even those of you who do know, maybe you'll learn something. But maybe not. So, let's start with the Nuzlocke Challenge itself, which comes from Nuzlocke Comics, which is made by someone with the username Nuzlocke, which features a character named Ruby. Well, he plays through Pokemon Ruby, but he decides he's going to make it a little difficult, and it's called Pokemon Ruby Hard Mode. Now, he decides he's going to make a few rules, so he can only catch the first Pokemon in each new area. Any Pokemon that faint are considered dead and must be released. Any duplicates can be excluded as the first encounter. All Pokemon must pretty much be nicknamed. Now, that inspired the Nuzlocke Challenge. Now, it's also interesting that it featured a Seedot that Ruby caught that ended up evolving into a Nuzleaf when it died that had the face of John Locke from Lost, who said the famous line, "I believe this is all happening for a reason." That's why a Nuzleaf is often associated with the Nuzlocke. So that inspired the Nuzlocke Challenge, which has pretty much those rules. You can only catch the first Pokemon from each new area. If a Pokemon is considered dead, it must be permanently boxed or released. You don't necessarily have to release it, but a lot of people do. I personally usually just box the Pokemon, but either way, they can't battle anymore. Now, there's the dupes clause, which a lot of people use. It's not mandatory, but it's often suggested. So this way you have a little variety, so you don't end up with a team with like 17 million Rattatas. It's pretty much implied, the unwritten rule, that all Pokemon need to be nicknamed. Although a lot of people, as a mercy rule, go with something called shiny clause. So if they find a shiny Pokemon, they can catch it. No rules, just catch it. Of course, a lot of people took this and decided, you know what? Why don't we tweak it a little bit and make a few more different challenges? So one of the more popular ones was what Maryland did. If you've never heard of Maryland, then maybe you should try crawling out of the rock you're sitting under, because Maryland's channel is awesome and you should check it out. I can't imagine anyone having heard of my channel and not Maryland, but that is besides the point. There's something called the Wedlock, which he did on Heart Gold, Black, and a Wonder Wedlock on Y. The Wedlock is pretty much a Nuzlocke, except the Wedlock rules apply. So what happens is, when you find your first encounter, it has to be the opposite gender of your previous Pokemon, if you have an odd number of Pokemon on your team. Each Pokemon you catch must be paired with the newest possible pairable Pokemon. So you can never get genderless Pokemon. So basically, if you start with a male Pokemon, the next Pokemon you catch must be female. Then after that, the next Pokemon you can catch can be whatever, because you have two Pokemon. But no matter what the gender is, the Pokemon you catch after that, every even number Pokemon you catch on your party must be the opposite gender of the previous Pokemon. Unless for some reason you had deaths occur and you have two Pokemon or three Pokemon of the same gender, then you pretty much have to just get your next encounter to be the opposite gender of the Pokemon you have on your team, and then you just have to pair it. Now, when you pair a Pokemon, it can only battle with its partner. Those Pokemon then become a pair. So suppose you have a male Totodile and then you get a female Sentret. Those Pokemon would be a pair. If you battle with Totodile, you can in that battle switch to Sentret. But if you also have a male Pidgey, you can't use a Pidgey in that battle unless both Totodile and Sentret faint. In each battle, you can only battle with the pair that you are starting that battle with, unless the opponent uses Whirlwind, Roar, or any move like that, in which case, then you can only use the pair that it switches to. If a member of a pair is to faint, then its partner must either avenge its death and then get repartnered with a new Pokemon, or die trying. You cannot battle with someone other than its partner, if its partner is still alive. The Wedlock Challenge is pretty difficult, as in each battle, unless you have Pokemon faint, you can never switch outside of those two Pokemon you choose to be battling. Of course, the Nuzlocke Challenge isn't the only Nuzlocke variant. There's also something called the Extremelocke, which was created by Missing No Expert, who has a great channel with glitches, and he's doing Let's Play Pokemon Fire Red Extremelocke. This Extremelocke thing is really interesting in that it takes the rule where you can only catch the first Pokemon you encounter in each new area, and kind of tweaks it big time, in that you can't catch any Pokemon ever. You can get as many Pokemon as you want if they're free, so you can use the game corner if you like gambling, but you can only get Pokemon that you obtain without catching them. You can't catch wild Pokemon. That can get a little difficult because in most games, there's a finite number of Pokemon you can obtain. Granted, if you're playing in a Kanto or Johto game, then you could just go to the game corner and probably get any amount of Pokemon. But normally, because there's only a finite number of Pokemon you can obtain, that can create some problems if by chance you start losing your Pokemon. Really interesting, and it's an interesting challenge. And there's something called the Extremelocke, which I'm sure several of you who watch my channel probably have heard of, considering I made this up. Now, this is like a Nuzlocke, only you can only get your first encounter from a new area if it's your first time in that area. I mean, Shiny Claw still exists. Like I did with Let's Play Pokemon Soul Silver Extremelocke, I could only get the first encounter if it's the first time I go to that area. If I've been to that area before, even if I had no encounter ever there, I still can't catch anything there. Now, that didn't really apply so much to Fire Red Azurill Solo Run Extremelocke because, well, I can't catch anything anyway because all I was using was an Azurill. Also, the rules are a little extreme in that you can only throw 3 Pokeballs at a wild Pokemon, and you can only use normal Pokeballs, which can get a little difficult as you get further into the game. Now, somehow I ended up pretty lucky with getting legendary Pokemon and Pokeballs. I have no clue how. Just luck, I suppose. But also, you can't use items during battle, which can cause some big issues, especially when hacks gets involved. And then there's the no Pokemon Center rule. That thing can really be an issue on PowerPoints. You can usually heal up outside of battle with items. You can't use items in battle, of course, but that can get out of hand. Now, sometimes you can manage to get back to a certain spot where you can heal without using Pokemon Centers or PCs, because you can't really use them for healing. If you need to change your team up because of HMs, or because there's no other way you're possibly going to get through that part of the game, then you can use a PC, just not for healing specifically. The Extremelocke can get a little extreme, but that just makes it all the more fun. Now, Bugcatcher JLF created something called the Everlock Challenge. Now, I actually on my own created something I called the Everlock Challenge, but it was a little bit different. I never heard of his Everlock Challenge beforehand, so I am still going to be giving credit to him for that because it's a really interesting idea that basically with your Pokemon, you can get any Pokemon. Normally, just normal Nuzlocke, only you can't evolve your Pokemon normally. You can only evolve once for each gym badge you get. So you have to be careful because in most games you can only evolve up to 8 times. And if you lose one of the Pokemon you've let evolve, you've wasted an evolution. Now the way I do the Everlock Challenge is, there's no evolution at all. You don't get those 8 evolutions. So let's call that an Everlock Plus. When really it's kind of minus, because that's 8 less evolutions that you get to do. Which can lead to some issues if, for instance, you have a Togepi or a Happiny. You're going to get so far if you have a Wynaut, for instance. Although, apparently you can do pretty well with an Azurill, as we learned. There's also something called an egg lock, where basically for every encounter you get, you switch it out in the PC with a bunch of eggs that you have. A lot of times people like to get their eggs given to them by other people, so it's all randomized, so you can pick up the egg and then let it hatch. And usually it's close to hatching when they get them, because a lot of people use Pokegen. I never really did anything like this, because I have no idea how to use Pokegen. Yeah, I know, you're probably laughing at me, but that's besides the point. So, you import the eggs, so then every time you get an encounter, you permanently deposit the Pokemon you just caught in its place, withdraw the egg, and then you let the egg hatch, it's a random egg, and then the egg hatches and you use that Pokemon. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they use like a rare candy code or whatnot, like Action Replay, Game Shark, whatever, just to level up the newly hatched egg Pokemon to whatever level the Pokemon they deposited was. Some people just train the Pokemon. It's really up to the player. I have never done an egg lock, so I don't know for sure. I don't know if I ever will, but it's interesting. And of course, since X and Y came out with the Wonder Trade, someone decided to make something called the Wonderlock, where basically you get a new encounter like you do in a Nuzlocke. It's just like a Nuzlocke, only once you get your encounter, you trade it away on Wonder Trade. Whoever you're trading with doesn't know what you're giving them, and you don't know what they're giving you. So you can get practically any Pokemon. Now, a lot of people do it with a level cap, so if the Pokemon's over a certain level in certain parts of the game, then they can't use it, because otherwise it would be kind of unfair. For instance, if you get like a level 100 Garchomp, and you haven't even battled Viola yet, whatever the case, it can lead to some pretty diverse teams, and can lead to a very interesting challenge. And there's something called a sleep lock, which once again, I've never done. I don't really recommend to people necessarily, because it's kind of not as much of a challenge determining how good you are with Pokemon, more of how good you are enduring staying awake. Because it's basically just going through a Nuzlocke challenge, but you're not allowed to go to sleep. You're not allowed to stop. You're not allowed. You just keep going and do what you gotta do until you get through the game. I just get nervous that could lead to some physical problems, health-wise. I don't know if it's the most healthy thing to sit in front of a computer and playing a game, or I guess in front of a console and playing a game for that long. I don't know, but it's out there, and it's kind of interesting. I just don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it. Maybe one day I'll try something like that, but I don't know. It's kind of dangerous, I feel like. And there's something, it's not in Nuzlocke, but what people do is they can make an interesting challenge by completely randomizing everything in a game. By randomizing the Pokemon's TMs they can learn, their movesets that they can learn, their stats, types, trainer names, trainer teams, trainer types, Pokemon types, items, the location you find items. You can pretty much randomize almost anything in the game, and by doing that, it can lead to a very random adventure, unlike anything you've done. So it can really change the game, because everything you might think is real in the game might not be a thing in the randomizer version. You never know, because it's gonna be random. So why am I talking about all of this? I mean, sure, it's interesting and all, but why would I bring all of this up? Okay, so I am introducing Let's Play Pokemon Platinum Randomizer Extreme Expert Ever Wedlock. Yeah, that's a mouthful. Now, logically, since I've played games in every region except for Sinnoh would come next. I am going to make this completely different than anything I have done, so it's going to be, everything is going to be randomized except for I'm going to leave Pokemon base stats the same. I'm not going to randomize that. I'm not going to randomize Pokemon types or Pokemon abilities, because I don't need to face a Spiritomb with Wonder Guard. That could be a little bit too broken. Now, I have no idea what the starters are going to be. I have no idea what the gyms are going to have. I don't even know. However, it's going to get a little difficult because I can't use items during battle. I can't catch Pokemon. I can only get Pokemon that are given to me, whether they're a Bulbasaur or an Arceus or whatever. It's part expert lock, I can't catch anything, which is going to lead to a few issues with the Wedlock part. Now, since it's an Everlock, it's the version that I use with the Everlock, so Pokemon cannot evolve. Whether I get an Azumarill, a Marill, and a Azumarill, it doesn't matter. However, it can never evolve. So if I get an Azumarill, it can't become a Marill, and thus cannot become an Azumarill. That can lead to some issues. Although, seeing as things with Fire Red, well, maybe Azumarill isn't a bad thing. But that's besides the point. Now, because it's part expert lock, part wedlock, that can lead to some issues with the wedlock rules. So, the way I'm going to be doing that is, if I ever get a Pokemon that's genderless, because I can't really ignore it as an encounter because it's one of the few Pokemon I can get, I'm going to count any genderless Pokemon as male. And hopefully I'll get female Pokemon. Hopefully. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with a lot of half-empty pairs, and that could be an issue in any battle, because then I can't switch out. So, this is very likely going to get pretty intense. And, yeah, all randomized, so I cannot know how it's going to go. I'm not gonna know ahead of time to prepare for it. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. And I'm thinking it's gonna be awesome. So, thank you for watching. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. And get ready for Let's Play Pokemon Platinum, Randomizer, Extreme, Expert, Ever Wedlock. Goodbye.